Oops.
Hi, Larry. Hi, Bob.
Hello there. How are you guys?
Hello, everybody.
Hey. Hello, Jordan.
All right. I was just saying, I said, I have not spent much time with Narissa in a while. And then just out of nowhere, so it's like voices from God came down and there you were. So,
Yeah, well, you apparently decided you wanted more punishment.
well, we always had the most exciting discussions. So,
Well, I'm like grill cream. A little dab will do you for a while.
just so I make sure, I want to make sure I have everyone correct for those that should not be muted. Of course, we have Narissa, Bob, Jordan. I see you there. Nice to meet you. Claudia is there. So nice to meet her. Then we have Maria, Xavier, Victor, and I think that's it. Jennifer Ellis is coming on.
Yeah.
And she's not on, I don't know if she's on the committee.
Right. She's not on the task force. Yeah. Lauren Bartlett is trying to get some things done at work, so she may join us late. Andy Schatz may join late. I'm not sure about Michael Koretsky. I did send him.
Michael's joining us right now. So.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So Narissa, just so I understand, do you want me to take notes? Are you going to take notes? I will make sure that we are recording, so that's one good thing. So.
Yeah, I'll take notes. Also, Maria, you see Maria because she needs to be able to speak.
Yep. Okay. Everyone should be, and John's coming on here.
John. Okay. All right. Well, I'm showing 9 o'clock, and I think we're waiting on maybe Javier, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But we will go ahead and get started since everyone's here and since it's Eastern time zone and I'm getting sleepy. I'm afraid I'll fall asleep on you. I'll take some notes. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you being here. And thanks again to the task force members for serving. Just a couple of announcements. We are recording the meetings. We have some folks who are interested who may not be able to attend. And also we want to have a record of our discussions. So I don't know, Larry, if you process the video or whether Billy does that, but if it's possible, or John, that we can get that added maybe to the Thursday, it looks like Matt Hall's joined us. If we can get that added to the Thursday newsletter that goes out to all of our members, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'll follow John's direction, but I think that's a doable thing. So
okay, that way people will have access to it and they'll know that we're meeting and that we're posting our discussions. Also, there's a lot of information that people have put forward, and I tried to send all that to you in an email, and then I quickly realized that it is a little bit overwhelming trying to find all these things in disparate email messages. So I took the liberty of setting up a Slack channel for us, and I put all the documents in there. There's a little bit of formatting craziness when you look at, especially the data set in John's election report. But I think you'll be able to make sense of it. But everything else that's text, I just copied it and pasted it directly in. If someone has a better way to organize these documents, I'm not a big fan of Slack, but it does do the job so that we can have that as an archive. So again,
it might be good to just put it in a Google Docs folder.
Okay, I haven't used Google Docs enough to know. So, if somebody else wants to take that on and put all those things in there, that's fine, and invite me. But I did invite all of you all to Slack. So again, whatever works for the group is fine with me. I'll try to adapt, even though I'm a Luddite. My favorite Luddite is with us no more, Jenny Frizzy. May she rest in peace. Okay, my favorite SPJ Luddite. So like I say, if somebody wants to migrate that over and send us the connections for that, I'm fine. I'll have to try to dig up some passwords and stuff to get in there. So let's take a few moments and introduce ourselves to one another, since we'll be working together. There I see Javier. We want to make, and did I pronounce it correctly, Javier? Or is it Xavier? I'm never sure.
Is he muted?
Yeah, we want to make sure he's unmuted because he is a task force member, Larry.
I've asked him to unmute. I'm going to change some settings real quick so I can
Okay.
have a little more power, but
Okay, thank
there he
you.
is.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we have everybody. There he is. Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, is it Xavier or Javier? Please help me.
Javier, no, not in any country. Xavier, no, it's Xavier.
Xavier, okay. I didn't want to assume, so that's why I wanted you
No,
to.
it depends on where I am. I would say Xavier, Javier. No, it's Xavier.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Xavier. Thank you for being here. Just a reminder to you, we are recording the meetings
Okay.
for posterity and posteriority, whichever may apply, or maybe both. So
Sure.
I'll start first. Nerissa Young, Matt tapped me to be the chief herder for this exercise. And I've been in SPJ for almost 30 years and done a lot of things at local, regional levels, and also done a lot of national conference presentations and served on some national committees and a couple of book projects. The Still Captive on teaching high school journalism, wrote a chapter about media law for that, and then several case studies and editing on the SPJ ethics book that's out there. So I've been around for a while at different levels. So Xavier, since I now know how to pronounce your name, would you mind to go next and just introduce yourself, please, sir?
Okay. I'm Xavier Higgs. I'm a Los Angeles-based journalist. Gee, I've been in the business. I don't have enough fingers or toes that I've been in so long. Right now, I'm a digital journalist. Prior to that, I'm a writer, producer, photojournalist, and I still occupy all of those spaces. I've only been a member of SPJ for 2 years. I've been a member of NABJ for, God knows, about 30 years. I'm a former local chapter president here in Los Angeles. I, worked from the Miami market to the Los Angeles market, actually just those two markets. So that's pretty much me, in a nutshell.
All right, thank you, welcome. And I appreciate your experience with NABJ. That may help inform our election process, since you have experience with a different journalism group.
Yeah.
Maria, would you mind to introduce yourself, please?
Maria Ortiz Briones. I'm a reporter in Central Valley, California. I've been a member of SPJ since 2013. And I was part of the the diversity fellowship, and also of the, oh my God, I forgot the other one. But anyway, I've been around covering health and general assignment in the Central Valley since 2001. Focus on the Latino community mostly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Claudia, would you mind to please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Claudia Mesqua. I'm actually a multimedia producer for Fox 12 Orkin here in Oregon. I've been with SPJ for 11 years. I did the leadership institute with Matt, was a past chair for Generation J. I've been with SPJ for a very long time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Jordan, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Frias. I'm here in New England, and I've been with SPJ since 2014. and I'm a part-time web journalist for Channel 7 in Boston, and I freelance on the side too.
Okay, thank you so much. Is Victor with us, Larry? I don't see him.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Can
hey,
you hear me?
Victor.
Yeah. Hey,
Welcome.
good evening, everyone.
Hey, good evening. Just a quick reminder, we are recording the meeting and we're introducing ourselves because we may not all know one another. So Victor, please go ahead.
Yeah, you bet. I have been a member and a participant with SPJ since '08, being involved in several committees and task force. The most recent one just a couple of years ago, launching into the latest iteration of the long-term strategic planning for the organization. And then Matt took over after that first year. So excited to be a part of that. Oversaw the student news project with SPJ and EIJ from 2012 to 16. And these days I'm in Seattle. I'm the executive editor of Cascade Public Media, which is a PBS station on the broadcast side. And then we've got a digital newsroom called Crosscuts, one big happy family, and doing what we can to provide news and information to folks across the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, terrific. So it sounds like we have a great cross section of SPJ experiences, media experiences, and leadership experiences. So I look forward to working with each of you. Basically tonight, unless you want to go further into the business of our committee, kind of want to get things organized. First thing, does this day and time work for folks, or do we want to choose a different day and time where we can do regular meetings through February and March?
I would prefer a different night, but that's just me.
Okay, Bob.
But I think you took for granted that everybody knows who I am.
I apologize, Bob. I did not mean to leave you out. The thing is, whoever shows up in my top menu bar gets my attention. And I've already told you I'm almost asleep. My apologies, Mr. Becker. Bob, will you please introduce yourself?
Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I am a fallen journalist. After 12 years as a reporter and editor, actually after 8 years as a reporter and editor, a newspaper departed out from under me. And I ended up in law school, continuing to write for a newspaper. And when I finished that, I spent 9 years at the Reporters Committee as a staff attorney and director of publications. And since 1991, I have been a solo practitioner lawyer in DC. I have been chair of the Bylaws Committee since 2007. And I'm generally one of the troublemakers in SPJ. Who has actually probably been a member of SPJ since long before some of you were born, because I joined as a student in 1969. So I have been working on the issues that we're going to discuss since 2010, when we first drafted the one member, one vote bylaws, so that we could have open elections in SPJ.
And thank you, Bob. I think of Bob as family. When I taught at Shepherd University, I hung out a lot with the DC Pro chapter people and with Bob watching a Nationals game before they tore down RFK Stadium. That's a long
Oh, they
time
haven't torn
ago.
it down yet.
Oh, they haven't
No.
yet? Okay.
No.
Well, they were still using it.
They built a new stadium for baseball.
Yeah, exactly. So, basically the headline is Bob and I are old, and the rest of you are very young. So I think we can move forward from there. So Bob, you want to propose a different night?
I'm open to most nights. Tuesday night is not the greatest for me. Thursday probably is not great for me because I have other meetings during the month that happen on Thursday afternoon. So Monday, Wednesday, I doubt that anybody really wants to do this on Friday, but.
And others want to chime in?
I'm available, speaking, I guess, just for myself. First and foremost, you two are not the oldest in here. I think I may be up here. Okay, if that makes you feel any better. And yes, I do remember 1969. So, it works. These Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evenings would work for me. These type of evenings, I guess, and considering that we have people from different times, 3 different time zones here. Speaking on behalf of the West Coast, this time kind of works for me.
Okay, I see a comment from Victor on Mondays, but he says he can work with the group. Jordan says he can work with the group. I don't
I
know.
personally like Mondays.
Okay, we have 2 votes for Monday.
I can do Monday for sure.
Okay. I'll just drink some coffee. Sometimes it's hard for me to do first night of the week for late meetings, but I'll just have coffee on Tuesday morning. So,
Well, let me ask the question. For those of you on the West Coast, could we meet an hour earlier? Or do you have work situations that say we're
that's 5 o'clock, Bob. They may not, they're journalists. They may not be finished work. Plus they may want to get a bite of supper.
I understand. I'm just asking.
Well, I'm going to speak up for them, but I'm going to let them speak for themselves as well.
For me, 5 o'clock is a little tougher, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. We'll stick with 9 then. Okay. So Mondays at 9. And as I said in the email, I think probably it's going to be good form if we meet every week, at least during February, and then we'll play March by ear, depending on how much we get done. Okay.
I must intercede here. I'm a board member for SPJ Local, and we meet every first Monday. Every first Monday of the month.
Okay. Is that going to be at 6 o'clock on Monday when we would meet?
7.
Because you're on the West Coast, right?
7. Yeah, it would be a 7 o'clock Pacific time.
Okay, which would be 10 o'clock our time.
Yes.
Okay. If we need to lose you, maybe we can have you the first hour and share with your local chapter after that. And if we're still going, you can feel free to come back after your local chapter.
Believe me,
I don't think
knowing the track record of SPJ, I'm sure both meetings will be going on. They will be parallel meetings.
Bob, you're just gonna have to drink some coffee, buddy. That's all I got to tell you. Or move to the West Coast till this is done.
or send you all an invoice.
Yeah, something like that.
So I'm hearing next Monday at 9 o'clock Eastern time is our next meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Actually, for me, Mondays don't work at all because I'm going to graduate school.
Okay. Mondays don't work or do work?
They don't work at all.
Don't work at all? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Claudia, for speaking up. Okay. So.
Oh, man, that was my excuse, Claudia. I'm in grad school as well, and Mondays are my only night off.
Okay.
but no, I totally get you.
Okay. No, that's fine. Okay. Do we want to just go through the natural progression? We're back to Tuesdays at 9. Do we have anyone who absolutely cannot attend Tuesdays at 9?
Jesus is fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I can make it work.
I can make it work, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Larry, did you get that? We're back to Tuesdays at 9.
Will do. I'll get that set up for next week and the next few weeks.
Okay, appreciate you. Now, in terms of our approach to the material, we have, if you did take a chance, and I know that you didn't have time to read and digest all that material because some of it I didn't get until late today, and I know our West Coast folks were busy in the throes of their workday, so I didn't expect you to stop in the middle of your stories and read 3 hours worth of material. But there are 3 organizational schemes that are in the documents that I posted in there. One is from the SPJ bylaws, that Article 9 that describes the elections, and it talks about the different components that are part of the election process. Also in a document that the board looked at and considered from 2 years ago has an organizational scheme with headings and what should occur under each of those subheads. The comments and draft that Andy Schatz asked me to include also has broad headings and bullet points under it in terms of what SPJ's elections should look like. So I don't know whether you want to choose one of those documents as a starting point, whether you want to choose the current language in the bylaws, whether you want to start from scratch. And the reason I'm asking is I don't know whether folks want to break off into some subcommittees and work on some of the items in those headings. I need to hear some feedback from you in terms of how you want to proceed. So that's why I call this an organizational meeting. So we kind of know how we're going to jump into this thing. Start from a blank page or have something and then add to or subtract from. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I think there are two distinct issues that were raised by the nominating committee report. I mean, it seemed to conflate it all as one, but they're really two different issues. One is the nominations process. And that's one piece that has to work for the restructuring to actually function properly. The other is, how do people campaign for office and get elected? So I think that's a starting point for a division. When the board put forward the amendments that restructured SPJ's board, they drafted a policy on how the nominating committee would work, because we, the bylaws committee and the task force that did the restructuring, believed that members really needed to have some idea of what would happen, how the nominating process would work if we did this, because one of the complaints that we had before, when the board was so big, was that it wasn't open to all of the members of SPJ. It seemed to be the same people got elected year after year, and new people weren't coming in. So one of the concerns was being able to get new people in. The other was, because the board used to have representatives of all of the constituencies of SPJ, the regions, the students, the academics, we were removing all of those constituencies from the board, because the idea was to have a competency-based board that could lead SPJ and not get into the weeds of running the organization on a day-to-day basis. And so the idea was to have a process that would have the constituencies bring people in to be elected. Okay. And so the task force drafted that policy with the idea that the nominating committee would solve the problem of bringing people in from a lot of different places in SPJ, but also reassure members that that was actually going to happen. Unfortunately, the board never passed the policy and never implemented it. And that's one of the reasons we're here today.
Okay. Thank you, Bob, for the institutional knowledge on that issue. I don't want us to miss, and that's why in the Slack thing I put up at the top, our task is identified by President Matt Hall, and then also the deliverables, what he wants our policy to include. I don't want that to be overlooked. So that's why I put that up at the top, because as we go through and whatever we develop, we need to make sure that we're taking care of all those deliverables. And also want to remind everybody that our audience is the board. Okay. These are the folks who will be not delegates, not members. This is being commissioned, if you will, to go before SPJ's national board to either be approved, modified, or rejected. So I just want to make sure that we understand for whom we are producing this work. Okay, thank you, Bob. I want to give other people a chance to raise issues, ask questions, make suggestions.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Upon our request, let's say we put time and effort into this, what sort of assurances that, our hard work will be rewarded, or if the board has some issues with some of our suggestions, do we get the opportunity to go back and revise, revisit, or, what are we looking at here?
I think that will be dependent on Matt's prerogative as president, and probably a consensus of the board, whether they want us to go back and revise. If we produce something that we feel like meets all those obligations, and we support it unanimously, we may be in a position where we say, look, we're all agreeing with this. We think this takes care and meets all of your objectives. We don't, because of our unanimity, we don't really see that we can go back and make revisions because we think what we have for you is the best thing that we can produce. So I think we would certainly take our cues from the board. And they're hoping to look at this in April, and just as a point of awareness, of course, according to SPJ bylaws now, the immediate past president is the person who serves as the chairperson of the nominating committee, and Patty Gallagher Newberry, of course, is in that role right now. I'm not clear from Matt whether this policy, if approved, would take effect for the 2021 election cycle or whether it would be for 2022. But Patty's report that she submitted last month to the board is in that Slack channel of documentation. So you can see that she is already at work. I did not ask Matt that particularly. So I maybe need to do that. I'll make a note to myself.
Who's responsible for making the presentation before the board?
I will probably be tapped to be present, but I will certainly ask all of the task force members to be present in April so that you can add or subtract if I have missed anything. We'll submit our document in writing ahead of time so that it can get into the board packet so that they have an opportunity to look at it before the meeting, so it's not first blush. But certainly I'm willing for everyone to be there at that meeting and to answer any questions that may come up. Thank you, Xavier. Anyone else?
Just a point of clarification. The bylaws do not in fact say that the immediate past president is the chair. That was the practice.
Okay.
Before the reorganization. The immediate past president is a member of the nominating committee.
Okay.
But we specifically in the bylaws did not make it that the immediate past president has to be chair. I personally think it should be somebody else who may be chair for a longer period of time than the immediate past president is on the committee. But that is not a requirement. And in terms of how quickly this is needed, there is a campaign starting right now. The nominating committee is supposed to come to the board, I believe in April, with at least a preliminary slate. So the campaign will start sometime after that point. And
Right.
So to the extent that we're talking about how the campaign should run, that's needed for this election coming up in September.
Okay. Thank you for that correction, Bob. Appreciate that very much. So the immediate past president is designated as a member, but does not necessarily have to have the role of chairperson. Thank you.
Right, in the bylaws.
Yeah. And so if we can get something that the board will support, then that would have the potential to govern this election cycle for 2021. But I'll ask Matt for a clarification on that. Okay, thank you. Others? Thoughts, questions, comments, suggestions? again, I know I put a lot of information in front of you at the last moment.
Well, I mean, if I could just maybe share a thought or two on this, and how we go about sort of tackling this endeavor is obviously still to be determined, and Narissa, you are leading the charge, thankfully. But the few of these efforts that I've been a part of, in fact, the sort of strategy we used for the strategic task force team over the last couple of years, particularly in the first year, was more of a divide and conquer approach, in that to perhaps maybe make the best use of our time. And because we're talking about a lot of, it's a fairly wide scope of history and layered information, that rather than us sort of get together each Tuesday and try and kind of pick up where we last left off, if we could be responsible for particular areas and then we become the shepherds of that. And it's not to suggest, I don't mean to suggest that, that many of these things aren't interrelated, that they're not connected. You wouldn't be able to research and then offer some smart recommendation without knowing what the item is before and after and where we think it's best to go with that. But perhaps if we are responsible for one or two of these things, or we can team up, maybe two people are working together to research and come up with perhaps the recommended directions, then we can spend the hour together that we have. And then we just sort of debate those for a few minutes, and then we sort of understand those arguments. But rather than us sort of taking the time to soak in what the particulars might be, maybe if we've done our homework in advance, we can just sort of dive right into the progress, and then hopefully the check marks start to follow, and we can really have this thing coming together by March. And I don't want to suggest that's the only way to go here again, but we have limited time to create a big path forward.
Victor makes a good observation. We are in a very short window here, folks, a couple of months. So that's one reason I said, do we want to use one of these organizing documents as a starting point and then divide out the responsibilities? And again, working in teams of two, or we can work singly and divide it out. Again, my goal here is to make sure we get across the finish line April the 1st. And I recognize there are a lot of ways to do that. So I'm depending on you to speak up and let us know what you think works and what's going to work for you. Whatever setup is going to allow you to be optimum on the production side of things.
How much work do we have, and how many people do we have to divide if we chose to go this way?
Xavier, there are 7 of us, and that includes myself. And if I go back, I have excuse me, I have that Slack channel open, looking at Matt's notes. Deliverables, recommendations on the makeup and the mission of the nominations committee, whether it should vet candidates and candidate statements, filing deadlines for candidates, because right now a candidate may announce 5 days before convention. So if we want to change that, there's an opportunity there. Whether there should be limits on endorsements from SPJ leaders and groups. Hold on just a second. Potential violations for use of the SPJ membership email list. I think that actually goes back to another issue, but maybe we should phrase that in a positive of, should candidates have access to SPJ's membership email list, and how membership could access candidates during the campaign, whether we want to recommend that a letter be distributed, podcast be distributed, whether there's a live Q&A at convention, in terms of how you can connect with the members. I know that the late John Enslin, another great SPJer, took on of his own volition the idea of doing podcast interviews with the candidates and making those available. I know SPJ National allows candidates to make campaign announcements through SPJ Election Central website, and then also through the corresponding issue of Quill. There's a deadline sometime in there for the summer issue, so that you can announce and include biographical information and so on and so forth. So do we want to have a firm structure on those kinds of things, and be specific? So
None of these seem that, well, maybe I'm coming from a different perspective, and being that I've served on a couple of other organizations where they have it's part of the structure. So it doesn't seem like any of these should take a lot of time. You know, some of it is like common sense. And this is just from my perspective. 5 days before an election, a candidate announcing, you know, I have all sorts of problems with that. You know, that just doesn't seem, there's some, I'm just using that as an example, just that one, okay? And I think that's something that would be a short debate. It would, you know, I just don't see why someone 5 days before candidacy, before the deadline, before the election, would just pop up and just say, I'm gonna run. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
The other approach, now that I'm thinking about this, I just looked at the calendar. So I was just suggesting maybe we consider divide and conquer and kind of go in different directions. The other tact we might consider is, according to my calendar, there are 8 weeks. If we just skip ahead to next week, between next week and then the end of March, we're looking at 8 weeks, and we have 7 deliverables. So, I mean, what we could do is just tackle one a week, and then we do the homework, we read up on these particular areas. Let's come together with our own research, and let's really dissect the issue for maybe the first half of the meeting, and then the second half is about growing some consensus and thinking about the right, you know, the right measure forward is. The downside here is that we can't fall behind schedule because we don't have a lot of wiggle room, right? Maybe we have that one final week to just make sure we have all of our act together. But if we needed to pause for a few weeks, we probably would jeopardize deadline, because or else we'd have to really cram at the end. But that might be another way to look at how we tackle this together.
I really like Victor's idea. That seems like a very doable in the time frame that we have.
Okay, thank you.
I think we could, you know, just going back, Victor, to something you said, maybe I always, at least when working out these sorts of problems, I always want to have a buffer on the end, just in case there's something comes up, you know, or we're not able to complete a task in a timely manner. And rather than defer it, maybe we can go 2, if we're going to do it 1 per week, well, let's go 2 a week, because there are at least a couple of these. I don't think it's going to take a lot of research. And I'd like to get ahead of the curve instead of, you know, the last week we're scrambling to get things done. And usually what that means is that we get nothing done. But I think, you know, and also in working as a team, it's always good to have another voice in your head rather than, you know, I've got the solution in my head, so I'm going to write it down and let someone challenge it at the end. But usually if you're working at least in pairs, if someone disagrees with something, you can work that out before you bring it to the body.
Okay, thank you. And I don't want to miss thanking Maria for her comments earlier. Other ideas on how to move forward?
I don't know. I kind of like this 1 or 2 a week. I think. I don't know. I feel like because I was like talking to my buddy Adam Sennett, who's here too. He's from New England as well, and we like a couple of them. But like for example, we like the vetting process, but I think I'm kind of scared to take it on personally because it's so important. So maybe it'd be best if we just do everything together. We just go off and just come back next week with ideas. Would be easier. Because some of these things could be a little overwhelming. Because I think like vetting is very important, but I would be intimidated to take that on, to be honest. So
Okay. All right, thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, I agree. Tackling 2 subjects a week would probably work best and probably use our time wisely. At least at the end, we can be able to circle back and see if there's changes that need to be made.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Anyone else? All right, so it looks like we have some ideas here. Maybe looking at 2 of these subjects a week. To keep our meetings short, if I'm just throwing some ideas out here, if we have at least a draft of something to look at, do you think that will help us add to and subtract from and move quickly? If we put something out there, okay? All right,
I think that's a good idea.
okay, all
yeah,
right.
it sounds like something where you use a Google Doc for that. So you like
Yeah.
right. So you have the Google Doc with your subjects. That way we can read it beforehand, and then we can just literally
Okay.
do it as we talk, add, subtract as we talk.
Okay. Okay, good. That way we can edit as we go. All right.
But
Thank
if we're
you.
going to do that, then let's put all of the documents in Google Docs so that all of them are available.
Yeah. Bob, would you mind since you seem to have some expertise with that, would you mind?
I do not. I have used it, but I have not got the expertise. And
Well, that's why I use Slack, because I'm a slacker when it comes to tech. Do we have a volunteer to migrate it and give us all our notifications so that we can then get in and have the access? What I tried to do in the documents is label everything and then paste the document under it. So that at least you would know what it was. And then the hinky formatting in Slack didn't always agree with me, but do we have somebody who's comfortable with it, who's willing to take that on? I don't think that would take too long. And then, so you don't think I'm totally slacking out. Here's what I'm thinking. I'll pick the first 2 topics and pull together the comments for each of those aspects that have been submitted for each of the documents. Okay, so for the first topic, I'll look at everything that we have right now in our queue that's been submitted and that we have on the record that's relevant to it. And I'll pull all that together and I'll say, okay, here's what we're looking at in terms of this topic. And then here's what we're looking at in terms of this topic, with the recognition that we have the freedom to come up with our own ideas and put them in there, but at least to try to organize it in a way so that we can attack it. Get that to you, or I'll try to get that to you. I know what my weekends are going to be like for the next 2 months. Try to get that to you at least 48 hours ahead of time so that you can review it. And then we can use our Tuesday night at 9 o'clock meeting to say, okay, let's put this in, let's take that out. Where do we have consensus? Where do we have not? Oh, by the way, this just occurred to me as a better way of going about that. Does that sound like a reasonable attack method, since we're using that term?
Sounds good. I was going to ask you, Nerissa, would it be possible that maybe by the end of this meeting, we have like at the time frame, like next week, we're going to tackle these 2 topics and the following week, 2 topics. So that way we know which topics are we going to be tackling each week?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be happy to do that. So we'll do like 2, 4, 6. If there's one that, doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of for example, the deadline on filing, we pick a time. I don't think there's going to be a lot of, oh, well, gosh, should it be 2 years? I think we can come to some agreement there. So maybe we do like a 2, 2, and a 3. And then that gives us time to digest revisions and changes, go back maybe look at the first 3 or 4, and then whatever we're stuck on. And then I know, having been a delegate for many years, and I know Bob has too, and those of you who have been voting delegates on the floor, copy editing is the thing that holds a bunch of journalists up the most, it seems like, trying to actually agree on the punctuation and the phrasing and so forth in the document that we would submit, because my hope will be that we'll have a unanimous vote on what we submit to the board in April, because I think our chances of meeting the concerns that caused this task force to be created will most likely be resolved if we can agree unanimously. And I think that will meet the board's concerns, because they'll have to be responsible to the membership if they adopt this and what we have outlined. So yeah, I'm fine with the schedule. I'm an anal retentive person and OCD, so that plays to my strengths. So do I have, if I'm willing to take on that part, I need somebody with tech savvy to set us up in Google Docs and do the notifications. Can I get a volunteer? Please.
Narissa, I can handle that. This is Larry.
Okay. All right. Larry is our ex officio and my wingman in charge of recording the meetings. So thank you, Larry, for doing that, and notify us so we can get in to the different documents, and I'll start doing some cutting and pasting. And like I say, try to get that to you no later than Sunday evening
Sounds good.
for next Tuesday's meeting. And Larry, I've got everything in Slack, so I can go ahead and start my cutting and pasting whenever I get a chance, even if you haven't gotten the Dougal, that's a cross between Google and Doodle. If you haven't gotten the Google stuff set up yet. So you and I will work together in coordinating that. Thank
Sounds
you,
good.
Larry. Thank you, Larry. And by the way, for those of you who don't know and haven't seen, Larry played a critical role in getting the Newmark money. Of course, Craig Newmark is affiliated with CUNY, CUNY, and funded their journalism program, started it up new and got the naming privileges for it. So that is a huge coup for SPJ. The Newmark School also is affiliated with First Draft, the organization based in the UK that is trying to educate journalists and the public and training them on how to spot incorrect, inaccurate, distorted, deliberately misleading information in the reporting process, and then also in news stories that people look at and receive. We've had some First Draft trainings on our campus at least a couple of times. So these are good people, as far as I know, to be affiliated with. So we should definitely give Larry a round of applause for all his work in procuring that. So thank you, Larry.
Well, thank you. And it's just step one, so.
Yeah, well, it's one step at a time. So we could not do what we do without our amazing headquarters staff. And that's another reason why we need to do this policy. Headquarters staff is busy answering all of our nagging, idiotic questions. They don't have time to vet candidates. They don't have time to round up nominations. And the other part of this that I know Matt is sincere about, and one reason I agreed to take this on is SPJ is perceived as being an organization for white print reporters. Now we know it goes beyond that, but there are other organizations that have the higher hip factor quotient, and so one thing I hope that we will do and be very specific and articulate in this is the need to reach out and identify leaders and encourage them and help them with leadership growth. That even if someone doesn't want to run this particular year, that we maintain a record keeping process where we know who our up and comers are, and that we're going back to that well and going, okay, where are you professionally? Are you in a position to take on an SPJ leadership role? Because we want to be broad-based as we say we are the largest and most broad-based journalism organization. Our leadership needs to reflect that. in the types of professions and the things that our members are doing. And it also needs to look like that too, in terms of our leadership, because we pretty white if you look back. And we need to be changing that. Okay, that's my sermon and I'm sticking to it. All right, so here's what we're doing. Next Tuesday, we're gonna meet and we're gonna look at the first two topics, which if I go back in my little cheat notes in Slack, we're gonna look at the makeup and mission of the nomination committee, whether it should vet candidates and candidate statements. So those are the topics for next week. Larry will set up, migrate all these documents to Google Docs and send us our email link so that we can tap into that and review it. Then I will post into Google Docs a summary of what all of the documents have relevant to those things. And I'll tag them based on the contributor, if you're okay with that. Because, we may want to touch base with these people and say, well, what was your intent in including this? So I'll tag whoever the contributor is in terms of the document. And then we'll use our meeting next week to sift through and say, this is worth keeping, or do we revise this? Do we throw it out? Do we add something new that we've come up with? And at this point, we'll plan to meet every week between now and April 1. And I'll work on a schedule for revisions and copy editing and that sort of thing, but it will be open to wherever we are in the process and what we need it to. We can modify it based on where we are, but at least it gives us a skeleton of what we think the next 2 months will look like. Yes.
I have a question. I hate to make it sound like this is a White House briefing where I have 1,000 questions for you, but as a journalist, I do.
If I get tired, I'll just bring in Sarah Sanders.
Yeah, we'll get a lot accomplished there. Rumor has it she's running for governor. But my question is, among the group, this esteemed group, where is the institutional knowledge? Because in coming up with ideas, it's always good to know if something, if I'm, me or others are repeating something that's been done before, and we'd hate to go down that road and waste time. So from an institutional knowledge standpoint, to whom do we kind of lean on for that?
I hate to say this, but I have been involved in these discussions for 10 years. Mm-hmm. As I said, because we started having this discussion about one member, one vote, which we passed at the convention in 2011. That's why I provided some of the memos that the bylaws committee sent to the board, because a lot of the discussions that went on are reflected in those memos. And I may have other documents that would be helpful, would illuminate some of that. But, I was involved. Patty was the leader of the task force that did restructuring. Erwin Gratz was very much involved on the restructuring, and he's also a member of the bylaws committee. So it's in a couple of places, but I probably have of this group, I have the longest term knowledge of these, of how this has evolved over time.
And I have some institutional knowledge, having been a chapter delegate, a campus chapter delegate, professional chapter delegate, and then as advisor of a campus chapter. So in terms of business sessions and how elections have been done historically, plus Larry is the headquarters staff person assigned to our task force and is ex officio, meaning he does not vote. He's certainly welcome to say what he wants to, but if we have questions where we need some historical data or something specific that we don't already have, Larry is our liaison to headquarters and the archives and archived information there. Does that help, Xavier?
Yeah, would you all be able to, or would you mind, if we're going down a path that's been traveled before, please inform us so that we're not kind of wasting our time, doing something that's been done before and thrown out or whatever. I'd hate to, recreate something that is not going to go very far. So if there's something that we're doing that you find that, oh, we've done that before, it didn't work, please, if you could kind of alert us newbies that, yeah.
Well, Xavier,
And
I think I can speak for Bob and myself. Those who know us know neither one of us are shrinking violets.
Okay.
And as I said, I emailed to you, I believe, or maybe Narissa put a link in to the report the bylaws committee sent to the board in 2016 on the restructuring, or 2017.
Mhm.
You have the draft policy, and I put some comments in it when I read it. So my thoughts on those. I may have some more task force documents that I will look for that might shed some light on the restructuring and the formation of the nominating committee. The memo that I did for one member, one vote back in 2011 discusses somewhat the mechanics of campaigning. So, and there is a policy that's on the website, on the SPJ website, in the policy manual, on how the campaigns are to be run. Whether that actually happens in practice, I don't know, but there is an outline of a policy on campaigning and elections. So you probably should look at those.
Okay.
Yeah, please, Bob, anything that you have that's contextual, that helps us show, for lack of a better word, legislative intent in terms of how we got to the governing documents we have. And I'm thinking in terms of that policy, and then Article 9 of the SPJ bylaws, which Article 9 is about elections only. That is the subhead for it. Please feel free to add those in. And just for those of you who were not members before the one member, one vote changes went into effect, during those days, theoretically, a person could be nominated from the floor for national office at the opening business session at convention. And that did happen a couple of times. So the whole 5 days thing, you could do that, and it was in the bylaws, so that if you showed up, you could declare your intention and then use the convention time to campaign. And that was the only time that you had to campaign. So, SPJ is kind of, started as a fraternity, right? A professional fraternity back in 1909 at DePaul University in Greencastle. And it didn't admit women to the membership till the, late 1960s.
Right around 1969 or 70.
Yeah, because I know Jean Otto, Georgiana Vines were some of the first women who joined SPJ. So it's kind of, been this sort of traditional thing where, well, this is the way we've always done it. And, it's time to move into the 21st century. And so I think if we give some things that are explicit and build in some accountability, then I think that does build integrity into the elections process. So like I say, I see this as a really great opportunity for each of us to contribute something of longevity to SPJ. So that's what interested me in serving and gets me excited about what we're doing.
When only delegates voted for the officers of the society, the convention was the place where the campaign happened.
Yeah.
So until 2011, until 2012, which was the first year one member, one vote started, a nomination from the floor really wasn't a problem mechanically, because it happened at the opening business meeting, and that's when the campaign started. Now the campaign can start much earlier. And the reason we didn't allow nominations from the floor anymore is the mechanics of getting the electronic balloting system working would have meant that staff who have lots of stuff to do at a convention would have had to take time off from their real duties at the convention to make sure that new stuff got put into the balloting system so that people nominated at the opening business meeting could get elected. And Joe Steele said, we can't do that. We can't spend that time at the convention doing that kind of stuff. So we said, we have to at least close nominations before staff leaves Indy to go to wherever the convention is, so that they got all of that work done in advance.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody on the bylaws committee really wanted to keep nominations open that long back in 2011, but we didn't feel that we could completely eliminate latecomers when the history was that there were occasionally nominations from the floor.
Mm-hmm. And in those days, as Bob mentioned, the chapter delegates who were present were the only ones who could cast ballots. So if you declared your candidacy and you found favor with the New York, Chicago, and the LA chapters, you could be elected to national office if you could get enough of those big chapters to pledge all their delegates to your candidacy. So that, you know, led to its appearance, and in some cases function, of just a very few people making all the decisions for the society. And so the one member, one vote was a chance to expand it so that it opened up opportunities for more people to run, more people to be elected, rather than just recycling through the same personalities year after year after year. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Any other questions, concerns about how we move forward, or how we're doing it and what we're doing next week?
I have a question, Nerissa. Do we have a time limit for our meetings? Like, I know that you guys are in the East Coast, but do we just have an hour to discuss things, 2 hours, 3 hours, or?
As long as we can keep Larry awake to run the tech side of things, and Bob awake and me awake.
I'm here till midnight.
And Jordan, as long as you can keep us East Coasters awake, we can go. However, I do hope this will not turn into Monroe County School Board meetings, which I used to cover, that would start at 7 one night and may not end until 1 or 2 a.m. the next morning. So I do hope we don't.
Yes, we all had that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that mirrors the SPJ board meetings that go 7 hours when, you know, as I understand it. But Maria, you frightened me when you said 2-3 hours, and you made it seem like, oh, we're open to. Please, no.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will pledge to do everything in my power to be as organized as possible and get things to you within the time frame I've promised. And I hope that you will in turn pledge to look through those materials and come with your homework done and ready, so we can jump right in to say, here's what I think, here's what I don't think, and let's start moving. We are not on a 40-minute cutoff time limit, also to get to your question on that, Maria. So I would hope no more than 2 hours, but again, if we could do it in less, we'll do it in less. Anyone else?
Just wondering. I know that one of the task force I was seeing, we got long, but I know that I don't have a problem. I'm over here in the, in the West Coast, so I can go to midnight with no problem, but I will feel bad for you guys.
Well, I will tell you that even if it were 10 o'clock in the morning, if this meeting goes past 90 minutes, I'm going to get real bored and probably fidgety. So,
well, you'll just have to turn off your camera, Bob, so you don't yawn in our faces. Okay, we will work as expediently as we can. We don't want to give the matter short shrift, but I appreciate, again, your sincerity and everybody's tone and willingness to wade into this and wade through it. Other questions and comments before we adjourn for this week?
I just want to make sure I have this right. So it sounds like Larry's going to send us Google Docs Sunday, and then we have time 48 hours to review them.
Larry's going to migrate all the documents that I have in Slack now. I have to give him permissions over to Google Docs and send you the link. I think that's how it works.
Yep.
So you can get into the folder. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull from all the documents that are in there, everything that's relevant to those first two topics, and compile a master document. Okay. So you'll be seeing 2 master documents, and Lord willing, you'll get that 48 hours before our meeting Tuesday, so that you can then review it and say, okay, well, I liked this. I'm going to advocate we keep this in, or whatever. And that way we at least have some starting document that we can add or subtract from, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel.
Do you want us to make the changes on the Google Docs, or do you prefer that we send the changes via email to everyone? How do you want to?
What do you all want to do?
How do you want us to interact with the Google Doc?
Yeah.
I think if it's set to record changes and comments, then it's probably okay to have everybody working in the document, as
Okay.
long as we have an audit trail of who did what.
Yep, that's fine with me. The more things we can do on our own, then the more time we have for the valuable discussion, rather than, the copy editing and somebody trying to type things in and get all that correct. So that's fine with me. And of course, people who don't get a chance, to put those comments in, certainly we can entertain that during the meeting. I'm not saying we don't make edits to it, individual contributed edits to it during the meeting, but anything that we can do in advance helps us move forward.
I'll send out a meeting invite for all of you guys. I guess for the time being, I'll just set it out to the end of March for every Tuesday at 9 Eastern. And then that way you guys have that. And then I'll also, in the meantime, get you guys your Zoom link too. Okay,
appreciate you, Larry. Larry, do you know when which day in April the board meeting is? If you don't, that's okay, but
it's on April 17th. John, you can, if I'm wrong, let me know, but it's on April 17th.
Okay.
That is correct.
And then I think, oh, hey, John, I forgot you were in there. John, how much in advance of that do you need to get our document to include it in the board book? 1 week or 2 weeks out?
2 weeks out would be a good goal. That way we have some time to get it prepared. We like to get the board materials to the board 1 week out, so.
Okay, all right, sounds good to me. Okay, so we got a little bit of flexibility on April 1, but that's our target date. So if we need to take the week after, between April 1 and April 8, whenever that is, to make any fine tunes that we want to, we can have a little bit of flexibility, but I'd rather we set it to finish early and have a cushion, as Xavier said, than to be working right up to the deadline.
Larissa, and also the document that we're going to be getting is going to have a timeline, like which topics are we going to be tackling each week, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to post a schedule there as well. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Maria. Anyone else?
Last question. So do we have to worry about the Slack at all? Because I didn't even sign into Slack at all yet.
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to close out and delete it, but we're going to migrate everything over to Google Docs. Okay, Jordan?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just trying to act preemptorily to save time, but usually when I try to do that, it kind of backfires on me. And so anyway, I think at least we've got everything gathered that I have, because some things were just sent to me that Matt did not have in his list of things for us. Okay, thank you, Jordan. Anyone else?
I'm sorry, I'm kind of anal this way. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 people that I have not been introduced to, and I'm just wondering, are they SPJ, FBI, local authorities,
they're-
or to whom am I,
They're all SPJ trolls.
These are interested members of the society. Jennifer Ellis, I think, is with Arkansas Pro Chapter, maybe a past president. Michael Koretsky from Florida has been a chapter president, also on the national board. I'm sorry that I don't recognize Adam Sennett or know him. I see Andy Schatz is on the call. Andy's a former board member and did submit some comments. So you'll see some things from Andy in the, what's the word I'm looking for? Aggregated drafts that I send to you. Of course, Larry John Schertzer is our executive director. So I think that covers everybody. Xavier?
okay, no, just
Yeah.
as
So
long as
those,
we know who's on.
yeah, so those folks are observers. They want to look and listen at what we're talking about, but we have them muted so that the task force can do its work without trying to, referee all of those things. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else? Oh, it says Adam Sennett is the New England chapter president. Okay, great.
So all of you on the West Coast have a really nice dinner.
And all of us on the East Coast are going to go to bed. Okay, last call. Last call. Okay, thanks everybody. I
Okay.
think we got a lot done tonight. We know what we're doing to move forward. Take care. For those of us expecting snow, stay warm. For those of you expecting rain, let's hope mudslides don't come your way out there on the West Coast. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in a week.
It's